go from there. All right,
Awesome.
great. So welcome, Cory. For those who don't know Cory Proctor, he's a former Dallas Cowboys player, well, so former Detroit Lions, Cowboys, and Miami Dolphins, right? Did I get those right?
That's right.
And I actually watched Cory play. If you're a Cowboys fan, huge Cowboys fan, you probably know his name, although it's been 5-6 years ago. But I'm sure you guys might know his name. He's a lot thinner now, by the way. a lot more, a lot more in great shape. But Cory is not only in wealth management and financial planning, but he's also a great, speaker now. He's in the speaking circuit, teaching people, motivating people. So, Cory, please give us a little bit more info.
Yeah, no, sure. My primary in my life, my primary job is my company, Pro Capital Wealth Management. So what I do is typical family and business portfolios. So your classic, that's all encompassing. So like your life insurance, your retirement accounts, IRAs, brokerage, retail, 401ks for companies, simple IRAs, all the way into alternative investments, REITs, a lot of those. But and it's really good, and I enjoy it a lot. It speaks to me personally because of my history. I did it in a smart way. Luckily, I got with somebody who's really, really great. But it also speaks to a bigger portion of me. I do speaking on the side, and I do that. It's a huge piece of my faith. Probably 60% of the gigs that I do are faith-based, so with churches or Sunday service or a men's conference, and then the rest would be corporate with companies trying to train their sales team, some sort of leadership or motivational piece. Lately, it's been a little bit of the mix. So it's been like the gig economy who got, or anybody who was really affected by this pandemic, and creating kind of a bulletproof plan. Not to say everybody's got a little different nuances in their portfolio and their financial life, but creating essentially a bulletproof plan for crisis. And a lot of people, we come into these types of situations when winter hits, you find out if you're prepared or not. And if you're prepared and you've been preparing and anticipated winter coming, because it comes in seasons, it's not a matter of if, it's when. If you're prepared, you're able to capitalize on the opportunities that show up during those times. And so that happens. So my intent lately, it's kind of interesting, some different organizations reaching out have been like, hey, our people, we've had to lay people off, or we furloughed people, but we're still active. We want you to speak to our team. So it's been a lot of these Zoom calls where it's, hey, giving some helpful tips on what do we do during this time, right? We've never hit a pandemic like this. A lot of us who are living today, right? We didn't go through the swine flu, some of us, through, I'm thinking of the one back during the Depression and the World Wars. I had saw somebody post on Facebook. So Spanish flu, that's what I was thinking of. A lot of us haven't been hit with devastation like that. So, this is first world problems, but, our devastating time is we have to stay home. So, okay, but so many financial or wallets or people's wallets are affected. That how do we navigate this? And then, given our situation, maybe we got hit hard. How do we project out of it? And what are some behaviors that we can implement? And so it's been a lot like that lately, and it's been really neat because I can tie in some personal principles that I like that might not be good for everybody, but the ones that I like, and just try to give at least an area to point your gun, And so it's if I can guide and help point somebody in the right direction, then man, you're good. This. We've gained so much from mentors, from other people that have been down the road ahead of us.
Right.
That if I can prevent not only myself and my family, but prevent somebody else from making the wrong choice,
right,
or preventing them from making the wrong choice, or at least anticipating that bad time coming and being prepared for it, man, you're going to be so much more weaponized to handle life.
Right.
And so, you think of issues like right now, we have a 50% divorce rate. Now that's across all divorces in our nation. It's a 37% rate on first-time marriages. And then all the way up to over, I think it's about a 78% on a fourth marriage for anybody who's been married that many times. So it's crazy. So subsequent marriages, there's a bigger issue. And so anyway, but what does that say? Because the number one cited reason in divorce is marriage failing. The number one cited reason is money. Well,
I'm an example.
Yeah. Okay. Well, money is a symptom of the actual problem. Money isn't the problem; it's a symptom of the problem. So, but what it does is, look, a lot of people are crying out this is an issue. Well, what happens when you take everybody out of work and you have 14.7? I know it's climbing from this number, but 14.7 million in filing for unemployment, and we have a massive amount of work stoppage going on because of this pandemic. So you shut off the well. Well, we have close to 40% of our nation that is living paycheck to paycheck and doesn't have $500 in the bank. So, okay, put all those problems together. What do you think happens? Divorces skyrocket.
Right.
Criminal behavior skyrockets. Abuse problems skyrocket. Everything compounds. Right. And so all of a sudden we have way more of a problem than we ever did walking outside worrying about a cost.
Right.
And so but here's the thing. If we were prepared for bad times,
right,
we'll make it through just fine.
Right.
All right. If you weren't,
right,
now you're getting hit hard.
right.
And so now I hope the deal is with people's minds as they shift the perspective away from, hey, the government is screwing us. All right. Hey, they're locking us down. I hate all this stuff. And I got my own opinions about that stuff too. But away from we're getting screwed to how do I fix this?
Right.
How do I figure this out? How do I navigate around this problem and make sure that myself and my family are provided for? And so that's when you do that, that's when you start flipping your mind in a big way. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's a great segue. So I was going to ask, here I am, let's say I'll just say someone like me, I'm an entrepreneur and all that stuff, but let's say I'm only a job guy, right? And I didn't do exactly what you said, talked about before, saved up, have this rainy day or winter time, some kind of money already saved up. What would you, if somebody like me came to you, what would be the tips and how would you help him out? Let's say they have a 401k still, but taking out 401k, that's going to cost them money, all that. And you mentioned something about how you can utilize that 401k without getting hit by penalties during this time, especially. So could you tell me?
Yeah, this is speaking generally, right? So, but everybody's situation is a little different. But let's say you're working for a company. That means you're a W-2 worker.
Right.
And that means your taxes you're paying. They're paying Social Security, Medicare. They're paying for Medicare. They have a contribution for Medicare. But you're working for somebody else. And so all right, hopefully that company has a 401k. Hopefully you've been putting into that. In general, what I tell people, look, you want 3 to 6 months of money in your savings. That's what I say, generalize right now. In general, you'd like 3 to 6 months of money in your savings account worth of expenses.
Right.
All right. So if it costs you $5,000 a month to live right now on your fixed expenses, paying your bills, your mortgage, rent, whatever the case may be, going out, if it costs you $5,000 a month, you should have 15 to 30,000 in your savings account all the time. That's liquid. That's money I can grab. Right. And this is in general. This is not just during a pandemic. This is in general. This means, that means that if I get fired, if I get laid off, if I have a death in the family, or if I have a massive car accident, or have some sort of devastating blow.
Right.
And so that's this, right? That's the situation. And so, but if you don't, what's nice about our current administration is they're doing everything they can to give or to help people or give access to funds that normally aren't available without some sort of belt loop, right?
Right.
And so normally it's okay. Let's say if you're that W-2 worker and you're like, man, I'm strapped for cash. I don't know how I'm going to pay rent or whatever. And you have a 401k. Normally, if you take that before 59 and a half, before your retirement age, that's the designated time. If you take that before half, you have to pay taxes on top of that, right? On that. But if you take it before 59 and a half, there's a 10% additional tax. Some people call it a penalty, but 10% additional tax. So, that's, you don't want to take that hit if you don't have to. That's why the whole purpose of this, you're deferring income until you retire. But if you're in that situation, you're cash strapped. What the IRS has done, what the government has done, is they've taken away that 10% additional penalty for the year 2020. So you can grab that, and what they do, well, you still have to pay your income taxes on top of that. Well, you can defer that for up to 3 years if you need to. And on top of it, so you're not realizing it all at one time, but you can also pay yourself back. If you get back on your feet really quick, you can pay yourself back into that account.
Okay, got it.
And take care of that. So it's that, what that is, if people are in that situation, now it's not everybody, but if you're in that situation, it's nice ace in the pocket. You can do up to 100 grand, I believe, in your 401k right now.
Wow. Okay.
And so, if you're struggling, it's a good lifeline to get.
Oh, wow.
And so I would say, talk with your financial advisor, talk with your accountant, and CPA, whoever you got to talk to, say, hey, make sure you know what the parameters are around this, so that you can be fully informed and you're not just making a desperate grab, right?
Yep.
So yeah, so that's definitely a great tool to use during this time.
Awesome. Thank you, Cory. Or reach out to Cory if you don't have any financial advisor. Reach out to him. Hey, you can even get an autograph from him, for free. Thank you, Cory. So yeah, on to this whole, how did you get into this whole speaking engagement, and, how did that start? I know you're very religious, or, you're very, very into faith and all, but based on what you said, that's how it kind of started somewhere. And how did it start even before your career ended, or did it start after your career ended?
Oh, well, I've always been a real outgoing guy. Now, the issue was that I didn't have substance coming out of my mouth. And so listen, there's a lot of speakers, or people posing as speakers, or people that they want to act like they got it all together. Right. But there is a whole lot of phonies out there. And I don't want to talk bad about it necessarily, but listen, if you're a phony, nobody's going to pick you up in a heartbeat. And so the faster you bring an authentic you to the table, the faster people are going to gain a real good comfort with you. Now, you have to dial in what you're about. Your foundations, your pillars, the things that you hold true in your life and what you were doing, and focus in on those things. But if you're just acting a fool and you really have no experience to speak to, you're going to fall flat on your face. And so I say that because before, where I've always been an outgoing guy, happy-go-lucky, love to hang out with people, feed off that energy. It's not like anything that was coming out of my mouth it was worth you hearing. And so, but what had happened in my life is we went through some crazy times. Lost somebody. I went through my football transition, trying to figure out what the heck I was doing in my life. And during that, we get an invite to church. And I had believed in God, right? But what I tell people is I wasn't activated in my faith. I didn't really care to have a relationship with him. And so we got invited to a church called Milestone here in Keller, Texas, and loved them to death. The pastor, our lead pastor, played football as a lineman over at Baylor University. And so he knew how to speak my language. And so this guy, I wasn't, prim and I'm not prim and proper. I'm about as rough around the edges as you can get coming from a locker room raised environment. And so nothing you could say could possibly offend me. So I've heard everything. And so anyways, this guy could speak my language. And what was funny is we had a vision the first day I walked in. I had a vision of the person we lost, and it was really powerful. And all of a sudden I say, hey, I didn't give my life to Christ at this time, but it brought the wall down to come back. And what started happening though was, listen, when I was in the league, I was always a smart guy, a hard worker, was where I was supposed to be. I was where I was supposed to be when I was supposed to be there. And I had great attributes.
Right.
But I didn't have any sort of unifying vision in that to drive the car. And so all of a sudden I'm in this church and I'm just kind of feeling this thing out. I'm listening a lot. I'm not really telling anybody jack, you know. And I get involved with one of our men's leadership teams, and I start hearing other guys' stories and like the crazy stuff they've gone through in life. But we started reading, and I couldn't put my finger on it at first, but all of a sudden this thirst for reading and just consuming information started going crazy. And like, so I was always this great guy, but I even remember Bill Parcells, our coach, asking me, hey, what do you think about when you come up to the line scrimmage before a play? And I couldn't answer the question. I'm like, I don't know. I just go do it like a big dummy, you know? And I think about those times, and it's interesting because coming into this, I became such a huge consumer. I started reading huge leadership books. I'm a huge John Maxwell fan. Scripture in my faith, diving into the word and diving into the history and to the actual context of what that was built on, which brings it so much more life and power into the financial world, into all these different areas that, because I was consuming so much, I would get in a conversation with you that you would tell something that you would say something to me that, I read something about that this morning. And I would bring that to the table and how it affected me, because it would bring massive revelation to me personally. Right. And all of a sudden I could share that with you, and it would bring life and power into the situation. And all of a sudden you would gain a piece of revelation from it. Right. And so so I share people, and they're like, man, how do you get on the circuit or speaking? I would love to do that. I go, start eating everything you could possibly eat. And what you're searching for in that is revelatory pieces for yourself. So meaning you have to be changed by something. Right. And because if I'm not changed, I can't change you. And so the same thing right in your sales world, you better believe what you're selling, because if I'm not sold, I can't sell. Yeah. And so the same thing, man, all of a sudden this started coming out. Like all of a sudden I was a cup that was overflowing, you know, so I could pour anywhere I wanted. And it started, all of a sudden guys were like, man, you need to come talk to my group, to my men's group, or you need to talk to my guys, and this and that. And obviously the football background is really neat. But next thing you know, I'm speaking to a crowd of 8,000 guys up in Springfield, Missouri, sharing my story, and then developing it and more. And this forces me to expand to levels where I got to dive into a detail of my own life, an account of my own life that I never realized I even had. And I tell you what, it's every day. So my faith, God has brought this into my life, a fire that was into my life that was not there during football, that was not there so I was able to get to a peak, a level just in here in the earthly place, right? Just here in the flesh. Well, now that I've partnered with my maker, and it might sound weird to a lot of people, but listen, now that I live in the natural, right? But I deal with a God of the supernatural. So all of a sudden I tapped into a lifeline that get me access to other levels that I haven't been able to reach before. And that is a huge thing that has played into the substance that I've been able to bring to the table in conversation. So I'd encourage anybody listening to this to just, if you feel like a pull into that, man, go start reading. And judge what you're reading, judge what you're consuming, because it's going to feed what you put into the world. Right. And this is like the old proverb of the old guy. Hey, there's two wolves living in your body, in your mind, right? Which wolf wins, the positive or the negative one? Well, the one you feed. Right. And if all you're consuming is negative news, right? Negative news on the media or negative stuff on social media, or always constantly bitching about your work or whatever. That's
Right.
all you're going to pour out. Well, Raj, you don't want to hang out with me if I'm just bitching 24/7,
No.
right?
Yeah.
I'm dragging you down, and you're not getting anything done.
Exactly.
But if I'm pouring real substance, authentic things that have affected my life, and I bring a good life to the situation that affects you and I across the table, man, that's somebody I want to hang out with.
Awesome.
You know, that's the guy I want in my life. And so, so that's that.
I got 2 questions on that. So great,
Sure.
information there. First, you mentioned books, which is my passion. So what's your top 5 books? Apart from Bible, because I know you probably will go Bible. So apart from Bible, what is the top 5 books one should read to reach a level, beyond them that they are right now, if they haven't read it already?
Man, there's a bunch. So it's, I don't know if I'll be able to list 5.
Well, let's go 3 then. Okay, let's throw 3. All right, let's go 3.
So my number 1 favorite book is Wild at Heart by John Eldredge.
This one I didn't read, so let me note it down. Wild at Heart.
Yeah, Wild at Heart.
Okay.
And this, I love it because it speaks to men specifically, but women would get a really good perspective out of it too. But it speaks to men and the purpose you're here for, and really what define that. And so, really, really good thing. Speaks to a lot of problem areas, but gives a lot of conviction.
Awesome.
Second one would be The Last Arrow: Save Nothing for the Next Life.
Wow, Last Arrow.
Yeah, that's Erwin McManus.
Erwin McManus. Okay. Okay.
I just finished one that I blew through that was awesome. It's called I Declare War.
Wow.
Okay. And so I know these are powerful titles.
I know these are. And who's this guy?
Levi Lusko. I got one more. I hate to leave it at the screen, but I got one.
Perfect. Yeah, let's go.
Let's see. I got one here for you. This is a good one. It's called The Traveler's Gift.
Traveler's Gift. Wow. Okay.
This is Andy Andrews. Is this guy? This is a real easy read. You can blow through this one.
Okay.
Yeah, blow through this one. But this one, man, these are all. Now these books that I just gave you. They're not like, hey, you get better at my finances. It's not that. It's
right.
Let me. These are books that affect you at a personal level. And they really did to me big ones. They were recommended to me by somebody else, and I've found awesome stuff in each one, gold in each one. And so and I tell anybody that follows me on social media, whatever I'm posting, you can usually get a hint at what I'm reading. Because I've had people that are like, man, you post awesome stuff. I'm like, great, it's somebody else's stuff. I'm just putting it in my own words. But man, those are some awesome books. I'd recommend anybody read them. And they've been powerful to me. Wild at Heart I've read 3 times. And they're just all really, really great books. So I'd encourage you. Yeah.
Awesome. The funny thing is, normally I think I read most books, but none of the 4 books you mentioned I've read so far. It's awesome. Yeah, I got an extra list now. So
this one's interesting because it gives accounts of different people in time, like Abraham Lincoln, Columbus. Who's the young girl during the Holocaust?
Anne Frank.
And Frank, man, and it paints these pictures, and it gives powerful life lessons in each one, and so it's just great perspective builders. It was just I love these. You start diving back into my library again, seeing all these books.
Well, I might hit you up on more books. That's for later. So last but not the least, obviously with all these books and all, you talked about mindset and, you know, not bitching about things or complaining about things, especially during this time, because a lot of people concentrate on that versus doing things. So give out the message that, you know, you would give out for anybody you personally would mentor or talk to or give a speech out to. What's one or two, three things that people be mindful of instead of getting stuck in this negative state, moving on and doing things, you know, better, or I don't know, you know, figuring out the situation is what it is, but we got to move on. How do you overcome those things?
Biggest thing I would tell people is one of my points I use in a lot of my talks is know what you're about. And that sounds very general, and it is. So here's the thing though, is you have to break that down. And so when I say that, I say, okay, know what you're about. So write down three things that is an absolute foundational element in your life that you will never move from. And so now you can shift, right? And you can tweak it, but what is a foundational element in your life or pillar that you stick to, that you have a belief in, that you will never move from when bad times come, right? So right. when the tidal wave comes and tries to hit you, or the mountain you're staring at, what is an absolute belief in your heart, that your heart of hearts, that will never leave? And so, and I'll share some with people. So like me, all right, some general ones for me: faith, family, and my work, right? And an umbrella that I put over those three things is effective. So I want to be effective in my faith. I want to be effective with my family, and I want to be effective in my work.
Right.
And so what does that mean? Number one is my faith. Well, if I believe in God, that means that I am not him. Mm-hmm. The very first scripture that ever hit me hard was Proverbs 3:5, lean on the heart, trust in the Lord with all your heart and soul, lean not on your own understanding. Mm-hmm. It's, meaning there's things in this life that we can't comprehend.
Right.
You know that. There's tragedies that happen. I can't explain. There's amazing miracles that happen we can't explain.
Right.
I mean, as fantastically educated and smart a doctor could be, there are some miraculous healings that a doctor cannot explain.
Right.
And so there's parts of those in every part of our life. And here's the problem. Here's the big problem though, is we want to act like God. Nobody might be thinking that in that term necessarily, but so many times we act like God, meaning I'm going to control everything.
Right.
And you need this sale, or you need this product, or like, you're not acting like you should be, or you're not seeing things the way I should be. I'm seeing them. So you're the asshole. And I don't want to cuss on your program, but I'm like, you're the jerk for not seeing it my way.
Right.
And especially when you think about our political environment, it's so heated like that.
Yes.
And so, and the problem is when we try to exercise control over everything,
right,
we act like God in that sense.
Wow.
So, and so that's it was a huge thing that hit me, especially coming out of football and then losing somebody so close. And I appreciate the mentality of somebody like, I need to take this on my shoulders and go. I love that. Right. But when you realize that you can't control everything, and that I have this belief in God, so I know I am not him, means if something happens out of my control, I can let it go.
Right.
Right. I can't control whether you want to do business with me. You want to be a client of me. Right. Now I can find ways to sway that and drive the conversation, all that. But end of the day, you say, Cory, I don't want to do business with you. Man, all right, I'm good with that. I'm okay.
Right.
And if I'm good, really, truly, in my soul, I'm at peace with that. You're going to feel that.
Right.
And ultimately, man, our paths are going to cross again, or that's going to come back. Right. And so that's huge. So, okay, that's a massive pillar in my life is my faith. Right. that's my faith. So I study that. I dive into that. I pray. I worship. I sleep better at night because of that. Number two is my family. My family. So if you notice this order right now, my faith, family, and work,
Right.
these are my hierarchy, right?
Right.
Faith first. Why? If I realize I serve a higher being,
Right.
meaning I'm not trying to control the world, that means I'm not going to try to control my wife.
Right.
Or my children. I'm gonna do my best to lead them
Right.
in every capacity that I can.
Right.
But when my wife, my family is above my work, that means I'm not exhausting the tank at work and leaving nothing for them.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
So many times, and I live in a great affluent area, and everybody's hustling. I love hustlers. I love people that are going after trying to get what they want, and that's great, right? But if you're married or if you have somebody at home that's waiting for you, they deserve more than what your job is getting. Right. And so the purpose that I had my job, I found a lot of purpose in this, helping families, but ultimately those families don't mean more than mine.
Right.
And so in my hierarchy, right? When I come home, that's my haven. That's where I believe I need my wife knowing. And this is you want a practical tip for a lot of people that are married out there. My wife knows she has veto power over my calendar.
Oh.
Look, my calendar is stacked all the time. So she knows that she can take something and move it and insert what she wants in there.
Oh.
And because she knows she has that power, she lets me do whatever I want.
Wow. That's a great tip for marriage, man.
Huge tip. So, but that's huge. And so like I put work into and I'm not perfect, right? Like we still fight sometimes. We still have heated arguments, whatever. But that's a pillar for me. That also means that I've chose my wife for life.
Right.
Through thick and thin, through good and bad, through sickness and health, right? Through hell and back. That means that we are both not perfect, and we're not going to make everything the right way, and so we're going to have some heated moments. But on the other side of those heated moments, if we work through them and trudge through the mud and work it out together, we're going to get to a gift that's a whole lot bigger than where we were at before.
Wow.
And so I tell you, look, I don't know a lot of people's belief, but I came into this place, divorce isn't an option.
Right.
And so when I'm that committed to my wife, she's that committed to me, and I'm leading her and I'm influencing her in that kind of way. And guess what? Our 5-year-old daughter sees all of it.
Right.
And so she sees that my wife is a priority. And so she sees what kind of man that she ultimately wants to have.
Right.
And so that's a huge piece. My last piece is my work. I want to be effective in my work. That means I used to be first one in, last one to leave. I used to be that guy.
Right.
I'm not that anymore. No, listen, I'm all about the 4-hour work week. I can work all day long. That's a natural tendency. A lot of guys are like this.
Right.
I can work all day long. But here's the thing: if I can put 8 hours of work into a 4-hour work time frame, that means I got that other 4 hours to go hang out with my family or do something that I want.
Right.
And so I can mow through and map out what I got to do. Right, my priorities. I can mow through and be effective in my work and not just wasting a ton of time.
Right.
That's huge. So anyways, zooming back out, if you're somebody going through this time or anything, a piece of the motivational piece, I guess, of this is identify what you're about. Take 3 things. You can't do 3, do 1.
Right.
What's something huge in your life that you love, right? That grabs your soul, grabs your peace, and then dive down into it and understand why it's so important to you, and then make that important.
Right.
Right. Exercise that. Because there's distractors all over the place. Enemy doesn't want you to do good. Enemy doesn't want you to do well. Right. I want to keep you distracted so you're not making money, so you're not executing your job, so you're not expanding your territory. Your dominion is shrinking or staying still. That's what the enemy wants from you. Right. So he'll distract you with freaking chain emails or random texts from buddies or whatever. But listen, I shut this thing off at a certain time frame. Why? Because I need whatever whatever I'm focusing on, I need that 100% focus right now.
Right.
And that allows me to execute at a level that's higher than what our current norm of bouncing around all these different things is.
Nice.
So,
Awesome.
yeah.
That's a lot of info. Hopefully, hey, people really watch this because he gave a lot of tips. I wasn't expecting this many tips, so I'll try to edit it properly so that people can get the right content. But thanks a lot, Cory. Again, let me end this recording and we'll talk. Thank you again so